She walked in quietly. No announcement, no entourage, just confidence and purpose. Enough to make them uncomfortable. They didn't ask who she was. They just looked at her, laughed behind fake smiles, and told her to leave. Mocked, dismissed. Pushed out like a problem. But she didn't raise her voice. She didn't fight back with anger. She stood her ground and watched as their certainty shattered. What happens when the person you humiliate turns out to own the building you're standing in? This isn't just a story about race or class. It's about what people reveal when they think no one is watching. Before we begin, subscribe to hear more true stories that challenge, shake, and inspire. And if you're watching this right, now drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from? Because by the end of this story, you'll understand why silence can be the loudest power of all. The rain had dried, but the streets still held the memory of it. Wet asphalt gleamed under Charleston's dim evening lights like a stage after the curtain had dropped. Melissa Rowan stepped out of the black sedan, her sneakers making soft, deliberate contact with the pavement. Her charcoal hoodie was zipped up to her chest, hands tucked inside. The air smelled like damp concrete, jasmine, and something older, like the bones of the city were exhaling. The Fairine Hotel towered ahead of her, glass gleaming, polished stone glinting. She stood for a beat before the revolving door, her eyes scanning upward. The building was part of her legacy. 51%, enough to control, not enough to be seen. She entered. The lobby was exactly what she'd designed on paper. Marble, floors, brushed brass railings, velvet lounge chairs arranged with precise symmetry. A fireplace flickered in the back. Jazz hummed from hidden speakers. It was perfect, but perfect only mattered until people walked in. Melissa approached the front desk. Her footsteps echoed, clean, quiet, sure. Behind the counter stood a young man, early 20s, hair perfectly gelled, navy blazer too tight across his shoulders. Dylan, his name tag read. He looked up, blinked, then looked down again, tapping his keyboard with casual indifference. Melissa cleared her throat gently. "Hi, I have a reservation. Name's Rowan." Dylan didn't meet her eyes. "First name? Melissa." A pause. Tap, tap. He frowned. Nothing under Melissa Rowan. "That's strange. Try M. Rowan, or under corporate, Rowan Hospitality Group. It should be for a suite." His tone shifted, not polite, clinical. "Do you have a confirmation number?" "No, but without a number I can't verify your booking, sorry." Melissa's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice even. "It was booked internally. You should see a note attached. I believe it's Suite 1701. Dylan tapped again, sighing just slightly. "There's a booking under Rowan Hospitality. But that's reserved for senior execs, corporate clients, not walk-ins." Melissa let the silence stretch. Then, "That's me." He blinked, then smirked, a flicker she knew too well. "You're with corporate?" "I'm the CEO. The smirk hardened into skepticism. He reached under the desk and tapped a small call button. "Just a moment," he said, and disappeared into the back room. Melissa turned slightly. Two guests, white, well-dressed, clearly affluent, entered the lobby behind her. They walked straight to the other clerk, smiles, small talk, keys handed over in seconds. She waited. Her shoulders stiffened as Tom stepped into view. The security guard, mid-50s, pale, ex-military stance. His hand rested on his belt, not on his weapon, but close enough to speak volumes. His eyes scanned her outfit before they met her gaze. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" Melissa faced him calmly. "No, just trying to check in." "Gotcha, just hanging around the desk then?" "I have a reservation," she said. "I've already explained that." Tom's posture didn't change, but the air around him did, tighter, watchful. Behind him, the office door opened. Linda, the night manager, emerged, mid-40s, carefully styled blonde hair, lipstick too red for the hour, clipboard in hand like it was a weapon. She approached coolly professional. Evening, I hear there's some confusion. Melissa answered calmly. No confusion, I'm checking in. The suite under Rowan Hospitality? That was arranged under my name, Melissa Rowan. Linda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Oh, I see. Unfortunately, we can't assign that suite without prior corporate confirmation. It's protocol. I'm the CEO, Melissa said again. I'm the one who arranged it. Linda paused. Do you have ID? Melissa handed over her license and business card. Linda took them without warmth, glanced at them for all of 2 seconds, and handed them back. You look different from what I expected, she said. Melissa didn't blink. What did you expect? Linda's smile faltered. We've had impersonation issues before, you understand. No, I don't. The tension in the air coiled, tighter. Linda gestured toward the lounge area. Perhaps you could wait over there while we verify? Melissa didn't move. I'll stand here. Tom inched closer. Dylan reappeared, hanging back. The couple from earlier looked over from the bar, whispering. That was the moment they decided she didn't belong. Then came the interruption. A quiet shuffle behind the front desk. Loretta, housekeeping, late 50s, dark skin, hair tucked into a bun, uniform spotless. She stepped quietly to the side counter to retrieve supplies. Linda noticed. Loretta, you don't need to be here right now. Loretta glanced at Melissa, a quiet one. Then she turned, grabbed a bottle of sanitizer, and whispered as she passed, You just stand still, baby. Let them dig their hole. Melissa almost smiled. But then Dylan said, You sure this is your hotel? Melissa turned her head. I didn't say it was mine. I said I run it. Linda crossed her arms. It's just odd. The reservation came from corporate, but your name wasn't listed on the file. It wouldn't be. I booked it anonymously. Linda's voice sharpened. Why would a CEO book a suite without announcing themselves? Melissa stepped forward. To see how the staff treat strangers. Tom tensed. Dylan shifted. They blinked. You expect us to believe you're conducting some kind of secret audit? Dylan said, laughing under his breath. Melissa looked at him, looked through him. I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to treat people with respect, whether they own the building or not. No one spoke. Then the glass. Doors swung open. A man walked in, older, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, dressed simply but neatly. He paused when he saw Melissa, then approached slowly. Harold. He nodded politely. Evening, ma'am. She gave a polite nod. I recognize that look, he said. Back in the day, this place made me feel the same way, like I'd wandered somewhere I wasn't invited. Melissa studied him. But you're here now. I am. My granddaughter just got hired here. I came to see how they'd treat someone like her. He looked around the lobby. Seems I came on the right day. Linda stiffened. Dylan looked at the floor. Tom's jaw clenched. Melissa didn't respond. She didn't need to. A line had been drawn, quietly, firmly. Loretta returned with a glass of water and set it beside Melissa without a word. The silence said everything. Melissa took the glass, not out of thirst, but principle. Then she reached into her pocket and dialed. The voice on the other end answered instantly. This is Rowan, she said, eyes locked on Linda. Activate the Charleston file, now. She ended the call. Then placed the phone gently on the counter. I suggest you check again. The cold pressed harder as Melissa stepped aside, phone still warm from the call. Her breath fogged against the glass, but her mind had slipped beneath the flickering lights of another hallway, another night. It was somewhere darker, earlier. A hallway, fluorescent lights flickering like warnings, tile floors scrubbed so clean, they stung the eyes. She was 16, barely taller than the mop she pushed through the ER corridor. Her mother, hair pulled back tight, in pale scrubs 2 sizes too loose, leaned over a gurney. She didn't see Melissa at first. Just another Shifted another night, but then their eyes met, tired, meeting tired. Strength recognizing strength. You didn't have to come, her mother had said softly, rinsing blood from her gloves. I wanted to, Melissa had replied, but she hadn't. Not really, she had to. Rent was late. Power had been cut off. For 2 days. The fridge smelled like sour milk and regret. They needed that overtime, both of them. Her mother never said so. But Melissa always knew. Her first paycheck from that job went straight into a jar on the fridge marked, "Own Something." She didn't remember who wrote it, only that it stared at her every morning like a dare. Now standing in the very lobby of the empire she built, that same fire burned behind her ribs. That same dare was whispered in her ear. But there were other memories, sharper ones. Age 24, folding sheets in a roadside motel off I-85, no air conditioning. Cigarette, burns on the carpets. One guest called her girl. Another snapped his fingers. No one remembered her name. At 26, she applied for a front desk manager position at a boutique hotel in Miami. She wore her best suit, took a bus, then walked 7 blocks in heels. The GM, a man with a golf tan and a polite sneer, told her, "You're very articulate, but we're looking for someone more aligned with the brand aesthetic." She remembered smiling, nodding, walking out slowly so he wouldn't see her shaking. He never asked what she built after that. By 30, she was managing 3 properties. By 35, she controlled more keys than the man who'd once said, she didn't look the part, but this lobby proved something. The jar on the fridge had filled, the suits were sharper, the title was real, and yet nothing had changed in their eyes. Not really. Dylan saw sneakers, not stature. Linda saw skin tone before credentials. Tom saw a security risk, not a CEO. Melissa's reflection in the glass tightened her jaw. The weight of history pressed in, but didn't crush. It sharpened. Behind her, the lobby flickered with artificial calm. Inside, they whispered. Outside, she remembered. She'd stood too long in places that tried to shrink her. Now they would stretch. She stepped forward, past her memory, into the now. And she stood taller. Melissa Rowan had been mistaken before. Mistaken for the assistant, for the intern, for the help. But never, never, for someone who didn't belong. She was born in Atlanta, in a neighborhood where streetlights didn't always work, but families did. Her mother was a nurse, tired feet, tired eyes, never a tired voice. She raised Melissa with one rule: if they don't open the door, build a better one. Melissa built Fairine, brick by brick, vision by vision. At 24, she was folding sheets in a motel on I-85. At 26, she was a front desk manager in Miami. By 30, she was overseeing 3 properties. And by 35, CEO of Rowan Hospitality Group, the majority shareholder of Fairine Charleston. The place she'd just been told wasn't hers. Melissa never wanted recognition. She wanted respect. Fairine was designed to offer it. But tonight, standing outside her lobby with security watching her every move, she realized her dream had a crack. And cracks, if ignored, become a collapse. So she stood still while they buried themselves in their assumptions. The silence after Melissa ended the call was thick. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. She could feel it, an invisible clock ticking between her calm and their collapse. Dylan looked at Linda, waiting for instructions. Tom hadn't stepped back, but something in his stance had shifted, like even he was starting to wonder who he was circling. Melissa didn't flinch. Her phone remained on the counter like evidence. Still, no one touched it. No one dared. Linda folded her arms across her clipboard, voice clipped. "Who did you just call, exactly?" Melissa didn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, she glanced toward the couple who'd been checked in moments earlier. They were sipping cocktails at the bar, trying not to look, but failing. She could feel their stares, like she was a performance they couldn't turn away from. Then she turned back to Linda, someone who knows how to recognize a mistake when they see one. Linda's nostrils flared, but before she could speak, The door opened again. The cold night air followed an older man inside. Clean beige coat, leather gloves in one hand, silver gray hair combed with precision. He paused when he saw Melissa. Their eyes met. There was a flicker, recognition, maybe even regret. Then he approached. He moved slowly, deliberately, as though he'd done this before, as though he knew the weight of walking towards someone who had every reason not to trust him. "Evening," he said gently, voice deep, a little hoarse with age. "You okay?" Melissa didn't answer right away. She studied his face, waiting to place it. She didn't need long. "Harold?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "I thought you stopped." "Coming here." "I did." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "What brought you back?" He looked toward the hallway, past the front desk. "My granddaughter. She just started working here. I came to see how she was adjusting. Turns out, I came at the right." Linda shifted uncomfortably. Harold turned toward her, expression unreadable. "I've been here before. Years back. They gave me the wrong room 3 times in one night, then said it was my fault. I never made a scene. Just left. But I see now. Maybe I should have stayed." She inclined her head slightly, eyes unwavering. The air in the lobby had changed. Again. But Linda didn't back down. "Sir, if you're not checking in—" "I'm not," Harold cut in, calm but firm. "I'm here to observe." Tom exhaled, barely. Dylan stepped back to his screen, pretending to scroll. Melissa didn't break eye contact with Linda. "You've made your judgment. Now I'm letting you watch it unravel." And with that, she turned away. She walked slowly, grounded, across the marble lobby. Each step echoed louder than necessary, a deliberate punctuation mark. She stepped outside into the night, into the cool breath of Charleston. The air bit at her cheeks and she didn't shield herself. Let the cold write its truth across her skin. Let it remind her that she was still here, still standing. She pulled out her phone again. This time she didn't hesitate. The call. Connected instantly. A woman's voice answered, "Rowan office." "Janet, it's me. Send William and Julian now. Tell them it's the Fairine. Internal check-in. Charleston protocol." "Yes, ma'am. You okay?" "I'm fine," she said. "They're not." She hung up. Inside, through the thick glass, she could see the staff clustered again. Dylan was speaking in hushed tones. Linda was pacing slightly. Tom is still watching the door. Then she noticed someone else. Near the far side of the lobby, by the hallway leading to the staff quarters, a young woman stood, half in shadow, half out. Slim frame, ash blonde hair in a tight ponytail, oversized blazer that didn't quite fit. Pamela, the intern, 22, maybe younger. She was holding her phone chest high, screen tilted forward. Recording. Melissa's eyes locked with hers, through the glass. Pamela froze. Then slowly she lowered the phone. Melissa re-entered the lobby, calm again. Loretta didn't return to the staff hallway. She lingered behind the velvet partition near the side of the lobby, eyes locked. On the desk where Melissa stood, calm as steel in a storm. Her fingers, red from bleach and age, gripped the mop handle like it was a weapon she'd never been allowed to raise. She had seen this before. It wasn't just tonight. It was the night 4 years ago, when a black couple from Charlotte came for their anniversary and were told the suite was unavailable, though she had just finished cleaning it. Fresh linens, chilled champagne waiting, view perfect. She'd whispered an apology to the wife in the hallway. The woman hadn't said anything, just held her husband's hand tighter and walked out with her head high. That night haunted Loretta, and now it was happening again. Only this time, the woman stayed. Loretta's knuckles tightened. She started to move toward Melissa but stopped when Linda turned sharply and hissed, "You don't need to be in the lobby right now. This is a corporate matter." Corporate. That word again, and like it could only belong to them, to the ones in blazers and polished heels. To the ones with clean nails and clipped voices. Loretta lowered her eyes, pretended to step away, but kept listening. She watched as Tom shifted closer, as Dylan's eyes flicked around, hunting authority in the wrong places. And she saw Melissa, not flinching, not folding, just standing, the way Loretta had always dreamed of doing but never dared. 1,000 nights sweeping the same marble. 1,000 times choosing silence over defiance, because rent needed to be paid, because her daughter needed asthma medicine, because keeping the job was safer than keeping her pride. But tonight didn't feel like any other night. Melissa wasn't just standing for herself. She was standing every time Loretta had swallowed her voice, every time a guest looked through her, every time management made her feel like wallpaper, necessary but invisible. So she did what she could. She walked to the side counter, took a clean glass, filled it with cool water, and as she passed Melissa, she leaned close. "You just stand still, baby. Let them dig their hole." Melissa didn't respond, but Loretta saw it. The almost smile, the flicker of fire, the moment of recognition. Loretta returned to her cart without another word, not because she was done, but because she had finally said enough. Pamela stepped forward tentatively. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." Melissa stopped her with a look. "Why were you filming?" Pamela hesitated. "Because I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I saw how they were treating you and it didn't feel right." Melissa's voice was low but steady. "So, you recorded it." "I don't know if I'll post it," Pamela added quickly. "I mean, I don't want to lose my internship. I just wanted a record." Loretta's voice chimed in from behind. "Then keep the record. The truth doesn't need permission." They all turned. Loretta stood there, mop bucket beside, hands on her hips. Pamela looked unsure. "But what if it backfires?" Loretta smiled, a little sad, a little proud. "Then at least you'll know you didn't back down." The words hung in the air like incense. Melissa glanced at the clock behind the desk. 5 minutes since the call. 5 minutes left until Fuyen. She stepped closer to Pamela. "You're not wrong to be scared, but fear doesn't make you a coward. Silence does." Pamela didn't respond, but something in her shoulders shifted, a quiet steel forming. Then, from the hallway, movement. Notification buzzed on Dylan's monitor. He clicked it, froze. Melissa watched his reaction like a surgeon watches a heartbeat monitor, measured, focused. He turned toward Linda. Linda?" Linda walked over. He whispered something. Her eyes snapped up. She stared at Melissa, then turned and vanished into the back office again. Melissa waited. No more words. No more defenses, just waiting. Like a storm that had already formed, and all that was left was the sound of thunder catching up to the light. The minutes stretched like piano wire, thin, tight, ready to snap. Melissa remained at the center of the lobby, unmoved. The eyes on her flickered with confusion now. Not pity, not respect, just fear of the unknown. It wasn't her presence that frightened them. It was the possibility they'd misjudged her, and that she'd come back with a reckoning. Inside the glass doors, Dylan kept glancing at the hallway. Linda had yet to return. Tom stood still, though his posture now carried less dominance and more uncertainty. Pamela lingered by the corner, her phone back in her pocket but her mind racing. Outside, traffic murmured in the distance, Charleston's heartbeat pulsing through its cracked brick and colonial skin. Melissa stayed by the window, face unreadable, hand wrapped around the glass of water Loretta had given her. Then the ringtone buzzed softly in her palm. She answered without hesitation. "Yes." A voice replied, calm, male, clipped with authority. "We're 4 minutes out. Julian's with me." Melissa's tone didn't change. "Front lobby. You'll know." She hung up. Inside, Dylan typed furiously now, checking names, cross-referencing files, as if scrambling could erase what had already been recorded in memory and digital logs. Tom adjusted his belt again, the gesture now more for comfort than dominance. He wasn't in control anymore, and he knew it. Loretta stepped out of the staff hallway, gloves still on, rag in hand. She glanced at Pamela, then a question, low, and pointed. "You still got that clip saved?" Pamela nodded. "Good," Loretta said. "Don't delete truth just because it makes people squirm." Pamela's voice was a whisper. "What if they fire me?" Loretta's smile was tired but firm. "Then they never deserved you." The air inside the lobby had grown thicker, like something had shifted, but hadn't yet settled. Pamela looked back toward the hallway, hesitating. Her hand hovered. Near her phone again, but this time not to record, to delete. She didn't. Dylan leaned against the counter, jaw tight, eyes flicking between the glass door and the back office. His fingers tapped the wood rhythmically, not out of boredom, but nerves. He hadn't spoken since the last exchange. Now, he seemed trapped in his silence. Then he moved. He pushed off the desk and walked almost reluctantly toward Loretta, who had just returned from the hallway with her gloves off, mop still in one hand. She looked up when she heard his steps, gaze sharp but unreadable. "Loretta," he said quietly, almost under his breath. "Can I talk to you?" She didn't answer. She just waited. Dylan lowered his voice. "Did you think I meant to be that way? To her?" Loretta stared at him for a long second. The silence stretched like a thread between them. Then she answered, "I think you didn't bother to ask yourself who she could be." Dylan's shoulders sagged. "I didn't know." "That's the problem," she snapped. "You didn't know and you acted like you did. You looked at her and you decided in seconds. No name, no ID, just sneakers and skin." He blinked, swallowed. "I wasn't trying to insult her." Loretta leaned closer, her voice low and razor-sharp. "Intent doesn't erase damage. You think she hasn't seen that smirk before? You think she hasn't watched people press the call button the second she walks in?" Dylan didn't move. "She's the reason you get a paycheck," Loretta continued. "And she stood in front of you like any guest would. Polite, patient, calm. And you treated her like a problem, to contain." His throat worked like he wanted to say something, but no words came. Loretta stepped back, mop in hand. She didn't comfort him, didn't absolve him. "You've still got time to learn," she said finally. "But learning starts with owning the mess, not pretending it didn't happen." She turned and walked away, her steps sharp, measured, final. Dylan stood in the middle of the lobby, alone now, face flushed with something too complex to name. Shame, maybe. Or recognition. And in that moment, Melissa turned her head slightly, just enough to catch that. She didn't say a word, but she saw it. Melissa turned her head slightly, just enough to catch that. The corner of her mouth almost lifted. Then, the revolving door spun again. Two men entered, one tall, broad in a navy overcoat carrying a leather folder, the other leaner, darker suit, Bluetooth in one ear. They moved like they didn't need to ask where they were going. They already knew. William Langston, Julian Barrett. The atmosphere cracked the moment they stepped in. Dylan straightened. Tom's arms dropped to his sides. Pamela's breath caught. Even the jazz music seemed to fade under the pressure of their presence. Melissa turned to greet them. One nod. That was all. William scanned the room like a man counting exits. "You good?" "I stayed," Melissa said. They didn't. Julian stepped forward, already removing a folded email from his folder. "We sent out the audit notice 2 weeks ago. Said you'd be visiting incognito. Property heads were told to brief all shifts." Melissa's voice was quiet. "Looks like they didn't." Tom opened his mouth, then closed it. Linda re-emerged from the hallway just in time to see the two men standing there. Her steps faltered. She registered William, then Julian, then Melissa was between them. The clipboard slipped just slightly in her hand. William raised an eyebrow. Manager Linda Ford? Yes, she said too quickly. He didn't ask for confirmation. Why's our CEO standing outside her lobby being questioned by security and denied access to her suite? Linda started. It wasn't confirmed. She gave you her name, Julian cut in. She showed ID. She booked it under corporate, same as all our executives. We've had impersonators before. You didn't ask for confirmation. You asked her to step aside, Melissa said coldly. You summoned security. You made her feel like a trespasser. William stepped forward. We're not here to argue. We're here to document failure. Yours. Dylan's hands were shaking. Pamela stood silent, eyes wide. Julian placed the printed memo on the counter. You all had one job. Treat everyone like they matter, especially when you think they don't. Melissa turned to Linda. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You thought I didn't belong. You looked at me and saw a mistake. Linda's face drained of color. And now? Melissa asked. No answer. She didn't expect one. The lobby, once curated to feel like quiet elegance, now pulsed with silent dread. Every velvet cushion, every gold-trimmed light fixture suddenly seemed misplaced, like a stage set for a scene no one rehearsed. And Melissa stood in the middle of it, unmoving, the center of gravity that pulled the truth into focus. Julian stepped to the front desk, sliding the memo across the polished surface like a court summons. Linda stared at it but didn't reach out. Her hand hovered above the page, then retreated slightly, fingers curling inward. She didn't need to read it. She knew what it said. Pamela's breath caught from the corner, but she didn't speak. Dylan stood frozen, his screen glowing beside him like a spotlight exposing what he wished could stay hidden. William kept his arms folded, eyes steady, on the team like a drill sergeant inspecting cracks in formation. Melissa's voice came, low and even. This suite wasn't just for me, it was for observation. Quiet, anonymous, honest observation. Tom looked at her, finally blinking as if waking up from whatever role he thought he was supposed to play. Linda broke the silence. I didn't know you were coming. That was the point, Melissa replied. When you know we're watching, you serve smiles, but tonight was real. Her words fell like a weight. Not loud, but unmistakable. William moved closer to the front desk. The memo didn't just say she was coming. It said she could arrive at any time, in any form, and you were to treat every guest like they were her. That was the test. Linda's voice thinned. We've had problems before. No, Julian said sharply. You had assumptions, and you acted on them. Across the lobby, Loretta stood quietly by the cleaning cart, watching. Her eyes didn't flicker with revenge. Just history. Recognition. Like she'd seen this play out too many times before, just never this publicly. Dylan found his voice. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. You weren't trying at all, Melissa said, turning to face him. You looked at me and decided in 3 seconds. Wrong outfit, wrong tone, wrong skin. Dylan dropped his gaze. Linda straightened her spine, clutching the clipboard tighter like a shield. This is a misunderstanding, that's all. Melissa's eyes narrowed. You summoned security on a guest who asked for a room. You questioned my legitimacy even when I gave you credentials, and then you told me I didn't look the part. Linda opened her mouth, but the weight of those words closed it again. Julian reached into his coat and pulled out a small tablet. He tapped a few buttons, then held it up. The lobby screen behind the desk lit up, flickering to life. A paused frame filled the screen. Melissa at the counter, Dylan leaning away, Tom's stance aggressive. He pressed play. Voices rang out, too clear, too sharp. Linda's tone, clipped and patronizing. Dylan's disbelief. Tom's cold, steady inquiry. No one moved. It played for only 30 seconds, but it felt like a courtroom testimony. When it ended, silence fell again, deeper this time. Pamela looked as though she wanted to sink into the floor. She stepped forward, almost trembling. There's more. Julian turned. What do you mean? I recorded it too, she said, pulling out her phone. From the side, I saw it happening. She looked at Melissa. I couldn't let it slide. William nodded once. Send it to my office, immediately. Linda stepped back. You're seriously going to use footage from an intern? Melissa responded before William could. I'm going to use the truth. I don't care whose hands it comes from. Linda shook her head, defensiveness rising fast. We were doing our jobs. Melissa's voice chilled. No, you were doing your version of the job. The version that excludes anyone who doesn't look like they belong on a brochure. Dylan looked up again, panic behind his eyes. Are we fired? No, Julian said. Not yet. Linda turned to William. I've been with this company for 11 years, one bad night. One exposed night, Melissa cut in. This wasn't new behavior. This was just the first time someone stayed long enough to let the mask fall off. Tom took a quiet step back. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Melissa's eyes moved to Loretta. You knew. Loretta nodded slowly. I've worked here since the ribbon cutting. I've seen people turned away for less, but I stayed because I thought maybe it would change. Maybe tonight's the start of that. Melissa gave her a small nod. It is. Outside the conference room, the hallway buzzed with whispers. Just beyond the door, Harold stood quietly against the wall, his beige coat folded neatly over one arm. His granddaughter, lean frame, shy eyes, a service badge clipped to her apron, stood beside him, hands wringing a napkin into knots. She saw it all, Harold said softly when Melissa stepped out. Didn't say a word last night, but she watched. The girl's voice came low, almost trembling. I thought if I said something, they'd send me home. Melissa didn't answer right away. Her gaze dropped to the crumpled napkin in the girl's hands, then rose again, slow and deliberate. What's your name? Imani, she whispered. You like working here, Imani? I did, she said, until I saw what they did, and how quiet everyone stayed. Melissa studied her, the torn edges of fear, the soft roots of courage, just starting to break through. She didn't speak like someone who wanted attention. She spoke like someone looking for permission to believe again. You don't need their silence, Melissa said. You need your voice. I don't want to lose this job. Then do it better than they ever expected. And never forget what silence looks like so you never wear it. Imani blinked, then nodded just once. Harold placed a hand on his granddaughter's shoulder. Pride bloomed behind his tired eyes. Last night, he said, I didn't speak because I thought I didn't matter. She reminded me I do. Melissa gave a faint smile. So speak now. Every time it counts. She turned back toward the conference room. The door swung open before she reached it. Julian waited with a nod. Time, he said. Melissa stepped inside. And this time, Imani followed. Julian looked around the room. You've all been trained. You've all been reminded, but clearly reminders don't reach hearts hardened by habit. William turned to Linda. Effective immediately. You're on administrative leave pending review. Final determination comes after corporate evaluation. Linda's clipboard dropped to her side, lifeless. And Dylan, William added. You'll undergo mandatory bias and professionalism retraining. If you stay, it'll be because you earn it back. No one questioned the decisions. Not this time. Melissa turned back to Loretta. You're the only one tonight who passed the test. Loretta smiled softly. All I did was bring water. No, Melissa said. You brought dignity. The masks had come off, and what they revealed was not just unprofessionalism. It was a culture, one built on convenience, not conviction. That, Melissa knew, would have to end. Tonight was only the start. The elevator doors closed with a soft hush, cutting off the tension. Still humming in the lobby below. Melissa stood alone, her reflection fractured by the mirrored walls, her shoulders straight but heavy. The silence inside the lift pressed against her like a hand between her shoulder blades. Not violent, just constant. She didn't shake it. Off she carried it. Suite 1701 opened with a soft click. The room greeted her like a stranger trying to be polite, neatly arranged, overly scented, artificial calm. The kind of luxury that was meant to impress people too tired to care. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Charleston's sleepy skyline, lights like fireflies, too far to touch. She dropped her bag on the nearest armchair and sat at the desk. Her hands hovered over the surface for a beat before opening her laptop. The screen lit her face in a cold glow sharp against the warm-toned room. She didn't check her emails. She opened a blank document and typed, "Dear Mama, tonight I stood still. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I didn't try to convince anyone of my worth. I let them look at me and decide what I wasn't. Then I waited for them to realize how wrong they were." Her fingers paused, then moved again, slower. "You told me once that silence can be sharp, can cut deeper than noise. I think you were right. But tonight the silence didn't just cut them, Mama. It cut me too." A breath. She glanced toward the window. The city didn't blink. It's exhausting, carrying composure like armor, smiling so they don't call you bitter, calming your voice so they don't call you angry, standing your ground so they don't think you're weak, walking into rooms knowing you have to prove you belong every single time, even when your name is on the deed. She leaned back, the chair creaking under the shift of weight she no longer wanted to carry. They looked at me and saw a problem, not a person, and I wonder how many more will. Her eyes stung, but no tears fell. That wasn't her way. She had learned too young that tears once seen became ammunition. Her mother had taught her that too. She glanced at the door, locked, then turned back to the screen. But I stayed, and that means something. I stayed so that the next girl in sneakers, with tired eyes and no makeup, won't have to explain herself. I stayed so they'd remember what happened when they let their assumptions speak louder than their hospitality. A soft knock interrupted the stillness. Room service? No, too soon. She waited. No second knock came. She ignored it. Typed, again. And yet, even now, I feel tired, not defeated, just worn. This job gives me power, yes. But it doesn't protect me from what people choose not to see. She blinked once, stared at the blinking cursor. Then added one last line. "I won't quit, Mama, but tonight I needed to tell someone the truth, before I go back to being unbreakable." She closed the laptop without saving the document. She didn't need to. It was never meant to be sent. She rose slowly, walking over to the window. The city looked softer now, less like something to conquer, more like something to outlast. Her reflection hovered in the glass, still standing, still here. The knock had been a false alarm, but the pressure, that was real. And so was her promise. The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, pale and precise. Charleston's skyline blinked awake beneath it, the city pretending nothing had happened while the air still pulsed with the memory of the night before. Melissa stood in silence, dressed in black slacks and a white blouse, her curls pulled back into a low twist, composed, not concealed. The suite felt colder than it had last night, not in temperature, but in spirit. She had slept little, if at all, replaying conversations in her head, each one sharpening the next. She didn't need caffeine. She needed clarity. At exactly 8:00 a.m., her phone vibrated. Julian. "We're ready. They're gathering in the staff conference room." Williams. "Already here. HR just arrived." "On my way," she said, voice steady. Downstairs, the mood was different. The lobby was quieter, flatter. Guests passed through with distracted glances, sensing something had shifted but unsure what. Behind the check-in desk, Dylan looked paler than usual. He avoided eye contact. With everyone. Linda was nowhere to be seen. Loretta rolled her cart methodically across the tile, not hurrying, not hiding. She nodded once when she saw Melissa, a silent salute. The staff conference room was tucked behind the main office wing. Normally, used for onboarding and vendor calls, not what was about to unfold. Melissa stepped in. William stood near the front, arms crossed, face unreadable. Julian adjusted the projector, setting up a flat, no-nonsense presentation. Pamela sat alone in the back corner, hands in her lap, a phone face down beside her. The rest of the staff filed in slowly, uniforms crisp, faces drawn. Some looked curious, others wary. A few are ashamed. Melissa didn't sit. She stood before them like the quiet center of a storm. "You all know who I am now," she began. "But last night most of you didn't, and the way I was treated proved that it didn't matter." Dylan shifted in his seat. A few eyes flicked toward him, then away. "I came here without announcement for a reason. This wasn't about catching anyone off guard. It was about seeing the truth. The version of this hotel you show when no one with a clipboard is watching." Julian clicked the remote. The projector flickered to life. Still images from the security footage appeared. Melissa is at the desk. Dylan looked away. Tom is moving. Linda crossed her arms. The moments were clear. Even without sound, they told the full story. Melissa continued. "This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was muscle memory. An instinct rooted in assumptions, and if it happened to me, it could happen to any guest who didn't look like the brochure." She let that sink in. "We talk a lot about standards, hospitality, professionalism, but none of that matters if it falls apart the moment a guest doesn't fit your profile." William stepped in. "As of this morning, Linda Ford has been placed on indefinite suspension pending investigation. Security personnel are being rotated out for retraining. Dylan will enter a 30-day probation period. All staff will undergo bias, diversity, and sensitivity training immediately." Gasps, murmurs. Melissa raised her hand. "No one is being punished for asking questions. You're being held accountable for how you ask them, and why." She turned to Pamela. "Last night you recorded what happened. Not for attention, for truth. That's integrity. Pamela has been offered a position to continue her training with us beyond this internship. If she accepts, she'll work directly with my office on guest experience auditing." Pamela looked stunned, then nodded slowly. Loretta cleared her throat gently. "Ma'am, if I may." Melissa nodded. "I've worked here since the doors opened. I've seen staff come and go, seen good people get tired, and tired people get careless. But last night I saw something else. I saw you stand your ground without raising your voice, and for the first time in a long time, I felt proud to wear this uniform." The room was silent, but it wasn't empty. Julian added, "This isn't just a reset, it's a reckoning. From this point on, every employee across the Rowan Group will be reminded, your bias is your liability." Melissa looked around the room. Some heads were bowed, some lifted, some looked away, but all of them were listening. "I didn't come here to fire people," she said. "I came here to find out if the culture we built had roots. Turns out some of it still needs watering." She stepped back. William stepped forward. "Mandatory debriefings start at noon. Training sessions begin at 2. This hotel will operate, but it will not operate unchanged." Melissa left the room without fanfare. No applause, no final speech. She didn't need it. As she passed the front desk again, Dylan stood, eyes down, but straighter than before. Pamela followed behind her a few steps later, shoulders set, grip firm on her phone. Loretta continued cleaning, but she smiled, and for the first time that day, Melissa did too. The conference room was empty now. Chairs pushed back, the projector cooling, the echo of hard truth still hanging in the air. Melissa stood alone at the head of the long table. Her fingertips brushed across the polished surface. Clean, clinical, cold. She stared at the imprint her palm left in the condensation ring from her untouched glass of water. It vanished slowly, like resistance fading. She didn't need more meetings. She needed clarity. She stepped out into the hall, her heels striking the floor with even cadence. Julian met her at the elevator bank, his tablet tucked beneath his arm, posture straight but eyes studying her. You sure you want to do this part personally? Yes. He didn't question further. He just nodded. Downstairs, the lobby had changed again. The air felt stripped, like static after lightning. The guests moved quietly. The staff watched the floor more closely. Linda sat on a side bench, back straight, hands clasped tight in her lap. No clipboard now, no script, just consequences, waiting to be spoken. Dylan stood behind the desk, stiff in posture, eyes flickering to Melissa as she entered. He didn't look away. He just stood. Tom, the security guard, was leaning against the back wall, shoulders slouched. Radio silent. Melissa stepped fully into the space. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She stopped in the center of the lobby. Everyone. Heads turned. Posture shifted. A breathless stillness swept across the room. What happened last night wasn't new, she said. It wasn't rare. It wasn't unexpected. That's what makes it so dangerous. Her words hit like truth wrapped in steel. She turned slightly, meeting Dylan's gaze. You didn't see me. You saw a problem. Then to Tom. You didn't assess a situation. You sized up a stranger. Finally, she looked at Linda. And you didn't enforce policy. You enforced bias. She let it land. Let them sit in it. Didn't come here to embarrass you. I didn't come to punish. I came because this company was built on something I refused to compromise. She paused, then stepped closer to the front desk. Respect. Pamela appeared quietly from the hallway, tablet clutched tight. Loretta joined her, hands still damp from cleaning, eyes sharper than ever. I didn't need you to know who I was, Melissa continued. I needed you to treat me the way you would anyone else. The fact that it didn't happen means we failed at the most basic level, not as employees, as people. William entered the lobby silently, standing by the far. While he didn't speak, he didn't need to. His presence was punctuation. Julian stood by the entrance, calm, watching, ready. Melissa took one final breath. If you need a name tag or a suit or a title to offer someone dignity, you're in the wrong line of work. The room remained still. I want every staff member across every Rowan property to hear this. Your bias is your liability. Your assumptions are your risk. And if you misjudge the wrong guest, you're not just failing them. You're failing this brand. Linda's jaw clenched. Her voice broke through, small but steady. I made a mistake. You made a choice, Melissa corrected. The mistake was thinking there wouldn't be consequences. Linda said nothing. Dylan stepped forward slightly. I want to do better. Then do it, Melissa said. But know this, second chances aren't guarantees. They're responsibilities. Tom straightened up. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. That's the problem, Julian said from across the room. You didn't think at all. Melissa turned away from them, then paused. This lobby doesn't need to remember my name. It needs to remember this moment. Because how you treat someone, when you think no one is watching, that's who you are. She walked past the front desk. Pamela stepped aside. Loretta gave a small, firm nod. Melissa didn't smile. But she walked taller. She didn't need to raise her voice to leave an echo. The hotel lobby returned to motion, but not to normal. The air hadn't softened. It had sharpened. Melissa could feel it in the silence that followed her every step, in the restrained conversations at the front desk, in the eyes that avoided hers, not out of contempt now, but out of uncomfortable recognition. Something had shifted. Permanently. She walked to the board near the elevator, normally used for posting schedules, menu changes, and supplier notices. It was half filled with laminated sheets and clipped memos. She removed a folded envelope. From her coat pocket, opened it, and pinned its contents to the board. A single sheet of ivory paper. Typed, signed. No heading. No corporate letterhead. Just 12 words, centered and clean. Don't just train them to serve. Teach them to see people. No one saw her place it. That wasn't the point. She stepped back and stared at it for a breath longer than she needed, then turned and walked toward the cafe. The morning crowd had begun to filter in, business travelers on laptops, couples whispering over pastries, and staff preparing trays in the back. She passed them without disruption, without hurry. She wasn't checking anything now, she was absorbing.